Baseball Hell is a production of Monkey Butt Enterprises. No animals were harmed in the making of this podcast. Well, hey everybody, Tommy the K here for Baseball Hell. It's Sunday, April the 21st, and I'm here with my esteemed colleague, Ward Davis the Fifth. Say hello to the people, Davis.
Hello, everybody.
Yes, we're back. It's episode 3. Are you excited?
I'm excited. They upped us up for one more episode. So, yes, I'm very excited.
It did come with a stern warning. This time, guys, you need to pick it up a little.
Are we supposed to get paid for this?
We'll talk about that after the show.
Okay. I'm running out of potatoes, but go ahead, Tom.
So here we are, once again, April 21st. Baseball Hell, a Cubs Cardinals podcast. You can hear us on Spotify, YouTube. We're also posted on Amazon Music and Apple if you want to hear a little more from Baseball Hell. Go back if you haven't done so and listen to episodes 1 and 2. We're kind of proud of them, right, Davis?
Yes, we are. We're definitely proud of them. I saw that text. I saw that text. You said, yes, we are. Is that what that's about?
Davis, that's a feature of the podcast software we use, Riverside. It's called private chat, Davis.
Okay. Privately, yes, we are very proud of this.
Thanks.
I think you're mad at me.
Well, I thought we'd start off with the first segment talking about Mr. Whitey Herzog. He passed away at the age of 92 last week. Sad to see him gone. I know you were not very fond of Mr. Herzog, and that can only mean one thing. He must have been pretty successful with the Cardinals during his management tenure.
Well, if he was with the Cubs and was as successful, I certainly would have been a huge fan of him. I did like the fact that back in 1984, in that infamous Cubs-Cardinals game, where the Sandberg Suter game, he gave all accolades to Sandberg and the Cubs. This is like
he did, yeah. In the post game, he said, "Yeah, he's one of the greatest players I've ever seen." That game, Davis, would have been the Willie McGee game had it not been for Ryan Sandberg.
Willie McGee ends up hitting for the cycle. Probably had about 5 hits, drove in about 5-6 runs.
Yeah.
An incredible game for Willie McGee. And he was also the player of the game, announced by NBC and Bobby Costa. So he was the star of the game. And then the game continued, and then they had to change it to Ryan Sandberg. That's correct.
Yeah, because that was an extra inning affair.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
And I think Suter, he had 40-plus saves that year, but that wasn't one of them.
No, and the Cubs ended up winning the division.
I was going to say a few words about it. As a Cardinal fan my entire life, I think Whitey Herzog, we owe him an immeasurable debt. The Cardinals trudged through the 70s with mediocre teams. They had a couple opportunities early in the 70s to maybe get a division title. They came up a game or two short, and they really weren't. It was kind of lost. They weren't really built correctly. They were trying to build a conventional team and win that way. And Whitey came in and he realized you're not going to win with a conventional lineup in Old Bush Stadium. It had AstroTurf that was hard as a rock. It had huge, huge dimensions particularly down the line and in the power alleys. And he knew you had to turn the tables a little bit. And of course, he came up with the defense and the speed and built that team really quickly because they were a bad team in 1980, and in 81 the strike shortened year. I think if it was just the pure record, I believe they were going to qualify for the playoffs. They might have won that division. That was a weird thing, Dave. As a side note, I was thinking about that the other day. That strike year, remember they went on strike about mid-year, and baseball declared the teams that were in first place when the strike occurred to be division winners, playoff qualified. And you know why they did that. The Yankees and the Dodgers had finished prior to the strike in first place. So baseball seized on that opportunity, right? They knew they had the guaranteed audience. And then everybody had to fend for themselves and win in the second half. And I remember the Reds had the best record in baseball, and they did not qualify for a playoff spot. Anyway,
Yeah.
back to 81, and then, of course, 82, they win the World Series. Uh, Another great team in 85, and in my opinion, the best Cardinal team of my lifetime was the 1985 team, and unfortunately, they fell apart late in that series. Then, of course, they got back to their World Series again in 87 with a team that I was not as loaded as the 82 and 85 teams, but again, credit to Herzog. He built that. And if I step back, I really think if it had not been for Whitey Herzog, the Cardinals probably trudged through the 80s once again, still trying to build a conventional team, come up with two, three power hitters, and not have the kind of speed that they had, not have the kind of defense that they had. They never would have got there. And who knows? They might not have been the successful franchise through the first 2 decades of the 2000s that we know them as today.
Well, he definitely was very successful there. And he before that he managed where?
Kansas City Royals, he won 3 division titles there, 76, 77, 78, and all 3 years they got beat by the Yankees in the playoffs. And I think
Okay.
he started in Texas, and I think he got dumped after only 1 year there, and then he went to Kansas City. And after the Cardinals, he did try to resurrect his management career and spent a couple years at the California Angels, I believe, but did not have any kind of success like he had with the Royals or the Cardinals.
Well, he definitely was a great baseball mind and a great baseball manager. And I have to give, as a Cubs fan, I have to give him a lot of credit for building that team up. As you said, he'll be missed. He's one of the characters of baseball, and brings good memories to you guys there. Better than Red Shandingst?
He was slightly better than Red Shandy's, definitely better than Vern Rapp.
Mm.
That's what I was thinking about prior to the show. I was like, well, Dave really didn't like Herzog. Well, obviously he didn't like him. The more he disliked him, the more successful he must have been. But you really liked Vern Rapp.
I liked Vern Rapp, how he kind of drug the Cardinals down a little bit.
Hmm.
I thought that was a pretty good thing. I thought that was a good hire. Anything that would make the Cardinals less successful, I was all for. But I will give credit for Whitey Herzog. He was a great manager, and he knew baseball, and a lifetime baseball guy. It's funny how these players who are not very successful can be such good managers.
Yeah, it's interesting.
You don't see too many superstar players be good managers, but
The aforementioned Ryan Sandberg took a shot at that, and it didn't pan
he
out.
did. Yeah, they just said, "How about just staying down in Peoria?" And he said, "I think maybe I'll go somewhere. I'll do something else."
Yeah.
I think they gave him a shot at the Phillies, like
Yes.
coach.
I thought he managed. I thought he managed briefly for the Phillies, and they just had nothing. They were
Well,
kind of like the White Sox today, and they were like, "Yeah, here you go, Rhino. We got a great opportunity for you."
well, Tommy, you mentioned Whitey Herzog on that 1985 team
Hmm.
that you thought was the best team they ever had.
In my lifetime.
Right. I don't know if you remember this, but we were going to college together in 1985.
Yes, we were.
I was living with you, and I noticed that I was not too happy about the Cardinals getting into the World Series, and I was a little cocky about it, and I said they will not win the World Series, and you said this is the best team, and I said, listen, Tommy, if they win the World Series, now let me preface this by saying I should have prefaced this by saying that you had a helmet, a Cardinal helmet. I don't know why anybody who was 21 years old at the time walks around in a Cardinal helmet, a Cardinal hat, possibly. But you had a helmet, Tommy.
Yes, it was one of those plastic fake batting helmets.
Right. Did you have nachos and cheese in it earlier, or
No,
was it just a regular, that was a
no,
regular
they
souvenir
didn't. They
helmet?
hadn't invented that yet. That combination.
Right. Well, to be fair, I didn't see you walk around with that helmet too much, but you did put it on every once in a while. I think to taunt me, being a Cubs fan, and here you're going to the World Series. And I said, Tommy, here's what's going to happen. The Royals are going to win the World Series. And if they don't, I'm so confident they're going to win the World Series. If they do not, I will walk around campus at
Mm,
Southern Illinois with that helmet on.
yeah.
And then the Cardinals go up, what, 3 games to 1?
3-1.
And I couldn't sleep at night. I was having terrible
You
nightmares.
had to
I'm
be
thinking, I
nervous.
can't believe this. I was very nervous. Cardinals lose game 5. Game 6 looks pretty good for the Cardinals, and I thought it was over. And then there was a call at first base.
Yeah.
Was that game 6?
That was the infamous Don Dinkinger first out of the bottom of the ninth. Yeah.
Beckinger, first out of the ninth. The guy steps on first base. He's easily the guy's out for the Royals, but they call him safe at first base. It was very controversial. The Royals went on to win that game. Game 7 happens. I could see that you were not very confident about Game 7 after that terrible call.
I was worried, but the Cardinals had John Tudor to start that game. He had won, I believe, 19 straight games. And I'm thinking, okay, for all the pain and the gnashing of teeth that we went through the previous night, Tudor's he's gonna put this all to rest and he's gonna shut these guys down. And of course, he went out in the first inning and just got lit up. He just, for whatever reason, did not have it.
So obviously the Royals win. They win 3 in a row. They win the World Series. I was saved the humiliation of having to wear the Cardinals helmet around campus for a week. Now, why I put myself on the line that
I
much,
know.
I don't know.
And I can tell you, I don't know what disappointed me more, the fact that the Cardinals blew that World Series or the fact that I didn't get to see you walking around campus with a fake Cardinal batting helmet on your head.
Now, I said I would walk around campus, but if I skip school that whole
Oh, you
week,
would have weaseled out of it. I know.
I had a friend of mine one time. She sent somebody I work with, and she was a big Cardinals fan, and she said if the Cardinals win the World Series, it must have been
2011,
six
they won the last,
twenty
or they won
eleven.
in '06, surprisingly, and then they
So
won
one
in.
of those years. So she said you will have to wear this T-shirt.
Oh,
So she sent me the T-shirt. They won, and I put the T-shirt on, and I took a picture of myself. I didn't say that I wouldn't wear it inside out, so you couldn't see that. So
you always were a thinking man, Davis.
right, but there's no way to wear that helmet inside out. I was stuck there, but luckily, the Cardinals lost,
Yeah, and
and
I'll tell you, just to put a bow on that, the pain factor of that '85 series loss, it stuck. I mean, it stabbed me in the heart, Davis.
yeah,
Incredibly, you probably felt a similar pain in '84 when the Cubs endured that Padres comeback in the playoffs, right? That was
right.
brutal, but it stuck with me, and I'm telling you honestly, I did not exercise that demon until the Cardinals won in 2011. And because of the fashion in which they did win, stealing that series from the Rangers like they did, I felt like, okay, the Cardinals got one that they probably shouldn't have gotten. And I shouldn't be whining about the '85 World Series anymore. So that it really took that long to neutralize that pain.
Well, you could imagine what the 2016 World Series win did for Cub fans.
Yeah.
I mean, every year was painful.
I wanted the Cubs to lose that World Series. I have to. I wanted the Cubs to lose that World Series. I was one of the few people in the country because I still was just harboring that ill will toward the Cubs. Right?
Yeah.
It's inbred into me. And also, I'll tell you, the Bartman thing really touched me with a sour note toward the Cub fans. I thought they treated that man pretty poorly. But anyway,
They did
we'll
treat him
save all
poorly.
that talk for another day. Uh, but the one thing that kept me from saying I absolutely don't want the Cubs to win was, of course, you, Davis. I wanted you to see your team win a World Series because, of course, we've been lifelong friends.
Right. Right. You don't want to see you don't want to see your friends in misery. However, you also, I could see there were probably a lot of fans around, uh, and I'm guessing that there's like maybe 1 or 2% of Cub fans who just said, "I want them to lose because I want this to continue." What do they call those masochists, or what are they? What is that word for that? I don't know.
I guess you just put me into that category because that's pretty much where my mindset was during that series.
Well, we won't
I'll
go
tell
into.
you another quick quip on that When Chapman gave up that home run, that game tying home run in game seven, I screamed so loud. I mean, with joy,
Oh no!
absolute, just as you said, masochist joy. I jumped out of my chair and I just belted out the biggest, yeah!
As you did that, there was the picture of LeBron James doing that. That big scream with the muscle thing when he screamed because he was at the game watching it, and they showed him in the like
Oh,
some skybox, and he yells out. They just showed him. He was this big like oh, and he's doing the muscle thing, and I'm thinking,
oh.
well, I would love to hear your scream on the video without the sound of LeBron James.
Well, Davis, let's get into some baseball coverage. We'll start with the Cardinals this week, Cubs. The Cardinals, the game was in progress as we were recording last week. Cardinals went on to lose that one 5-0 to Arizona. It was pretty much of a sleepwalk for the entire team. They only had 4 hits. Michaelis, 4 and 2/3 innings, gives up 5 earned runs. His ERA, by the way, 5.82 as he exited that game. He was shutting them out for the first 4 innings, and then he goes into the fifth and just gets pounded. It's pretty confounding the way that the magic just evaporates when they get to the third time through the lineup, especially for Michaelis. So the Cardinals exit that game and enter this week at 7-9. They go out to Oakland. Game one, final score, Cards come out on top, 3-1. They're closing the gap on getting back to 500. They're 8-9. Mason Wynn, another good game, 2 for 3. He was batting 370 at that point. Arenado showing signs of coming out of his slumber, got a couple of hits, still no power. Sonny Gray, Sonny, Sonny Gray, 6 innings, 4 hits, no runs. Helsley got his sixth save. Cards play game two at Oakland. They win this one too. Final score 3-2. Notice the Cardinals have a tendency, or as Howard Cosell used to say, a propensity for scoring 3 runs or less. And this is a trend that's disturbing. They win this one 3-2, even up their record at 9-9. Some really nice defensive play by Victor Scott in center field. Incidentally, Ali Marmol had just inserted him in for defensive purposes in the top of the seventh. Lo and behold, they end up ripping a shot at him with men on base. He dives and makes a great play. Lance Lynn, 7 innings eaten, 5 hits, 1 run. His ERA, 2.18 after this game.
I'm surprised, but go ahead.
I'm pleasantly surprised. It's certainly better than what was expected from him. Helsley picks up his seventh save, so he's doing well. Helsley's had one bad game, and that's really a bright spot for the Cardinals. He has to stay healthy, and he has to save 30 games. And they head into game three at Oakland. Final was 6-3 to A's. They were actually up 3-2 until the bottom of the fifth when Steven Matz gets blown up like a Taco Bell bathroom on National Burrito. Offense goes dormant after that. They don't get much of any rally going. Only 6 hits total for the game, but they win the series. Cardinals then limp out of town with a record of 9-10, but it's hard to sweep anybody, even if it is supposedly the lowly A's, although their record is no worse than the Cardinals. Dave, at this point, we can turn our attention to the Cubs. The Cubs, now they won that game that was in progress as we were recording last week, and they will come into the week at 9-6 after finishing up in Seattle. They go to Arizona to take on those D bags.
Yeah, they won the series in Seattle, and they played the D-backs, and they win the first one, a close one on Jackie Robinson Day, and they win it in extra
Yeah,
innings.
final 3-2 Cubs.
The Cubs were down 2-1 going into, I think, in the ninth inning. They were down, and they scored with, I think Horner was on second base. There was a wild pitch. The ball bounces off the catcher. Catcher can't find it. It goes bounces toward first base. Horner rounds third. He never stops. He gets in by about he beats the throw and slides in head first. A tie game. Really tough way for the Diamondbacks to blow that lead.
Yeah, quite an unusual play to score from second base on a wild pitch.
Right. It was kind of like the 2016 World Series. The same thing happened when they brought Lester in, and he throws a wild pitch. It
Yes.
knocks it hits David Ross in the head or the helmet. And it knocks him backwards, and the ball goes toward first base, and he's knocked backward toward third base dugout side. And then he had to find it, and they scored maybe a run or two or whatever. But it was a very bad play.
I think Ross was wearing one of those fake plastic batting helmets.
Yeah, I think there was still a little bit of nacho cheese in it. Um, yeah, that might have saved him because it protected his head.
As you said last week, the cheese had coagulated. I was impressed with your vocabulary.
Well, thank you. I ain't that bad. After the game, there was like an orange tint to his bald head, and I think that was the cheese. But anyway, the Cubs ended up winning the game. It was Game 7 of the World Series, but it was something like that.
A couple nice defensive plays there. I saw Horner made a nice diving catch by Taubman in the outfield too. Saved that game.
Yeah,
Uh,
save the game. Their
yeah,
defense, and then Horner not only scores the tying run, but he gets a hit to drive in the winning run, and the game is saved. The next day, they give up. They were back and forth. Of course, Hendricks is on the mound, and they lose 12-11. Hendricks gives up a bunch of runs, but they came back for him and they saved them the loss. But Happ hits a grand slam, and then they end up getting an 11-8 lead. The Diamondbacks score a run in the seventh, the eighth, the ninth, and I think the 10th, and then they lose 12-11.
yeah. Ian Happ a grand slam in this game put the Cubs up 11-8. Looked like they had this one in the bag. Another home run by Michael Bush. Fifth straight game at that point.
At that point, yeah, and I think that was it for him. He didn't continue that streak because they won the next day. And I have to say, and we talked about that the week before. They had a very tough loss when they had an 8-0 lead over the Padres when they went over to San Diego,
Yeah.
and they lost 9-8. And here they have a very tough loss on that Tuesday, and then Wednesday they come back and they win 5-3.
Alzolay in that Tuesday game couldn't hold the lead. Bottom of the ninth, two outs, and Marte takes him deep.
Right, and Alzolay, the Cubs were rained out on Thursday, uh, but Friday they won.
We'll get to that one in a few minutes because that's in our part two of our coverage, right?
Well, yeah, but it was a tough one. But that's relating to Alzolay because he's given up like
Oh yeah.
4 home runs already, and I think he gave up 5 all last year, and he's already blown like 3 or 4 saves. So
Okay, so
that's something that
Alzolay,
they'll have
he's
to.
been hit or miss, and he's been getting touched by the long ball.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, they came back and they won that third game at Arizona, final 5-3. They had Bellinger hit a home run in the sixth. Wicks, 4 and a third innings in the start, gave up 5 hits, 2 runs, not too bad. Marte got a home run off of him. Smiley pitches the final 2/3, gives up a home run to your old buddy Jock Peterson. But the Cubs come out on top. They get out of Arizona with an 11-7 record. Could have easily been 13-5 had they not let that game in San Diego get away, and then the game in game 2 in Arizona. But all in all, Cubs playing some pretty good ball.
Well, I think we talked about it, how resilient they are. They lost that big game. They won the next day. They lost another big game Tuesday, 12-11. They come back and they win the next day. So they've been
Hmm.
pretty good about it. They haven't been letting these tough losses
They're not letting it get them down when
get
they
them down.
get one snatched out from under them.
Right.
Well, that takes us through the first series of the week for each one of the teams. We can move on to our next segment, which we like to call Listener Mail.
Yes, listen, Mel and Tony. Okay, let me tell you something. Last week you had a mail from someone in Uranus, Missouri.
Yeah, Cardinals Homer 6. I like that guy.
Yeah, I got a letter from Joan from Wrigleyville. It's where the Wrigley Field is in. That's what they call the neighborhood, Wrigleyville.
Oh.
But anyway, I haven't even opened this up because I'm pretty confident that now there was some pretty disparaging remarks about me.
Dave, that's pretty bold of you after the experience last week where we did the blind draw and opened it up right there live on the air. And you're sure you want to play that game again?
Well, Tommy, I mean, come on, Uranus, Missouri. This is from Wrigleyville. I think I'm pretty confident in this one. All right, let me see if I can open this up. And okay, dear baseball from hell. Okay, I was a lifelong Cubs fan, but Davis sucks.
Ooh.
Uh, I don't think I really need to read the rest, do I?
Is there more?
Yeah, there's a little bit more in there. Well, maybe it gets better. Now I go to my deathbed a Cardinals fan. Thanks, Tommy the Cave, for giving me something to believe in. Gosh. Well, you know something. Haters will be haters, as Taylor Swift says. Hold on a second here. P.S. No, I'm not going to read the rest of this.
Okay.
Can I get a moment? Okay, I'm good. Let's just go on.
Well, Davis, with that, why don't we go to the phone lines?
We're going to open up the lines for free tickets. We have the tickets available to the third caller, and the tickets are at the South Bend, Indiana Dinner Theater. It's a show, and I've been there. I've seen it. Tommy, it's pretty interesting. It's the reimagining of Gilligan as an apostle.
You went full retard, man.
Yeah, it's in the South Bend. It's a dinner theater. Now South Bend. It's a 3 hour and 50 minute show.
Okay.
I was awake through most of it. But it's now remember South Bend, Indiana is in Eastern time, so it's a 3 hour 50 minute show. Because they're in Eastern time, though, it's going to be a 4 hour 50 minute show, I think.
Oh, that's
So,
bonus.
but it's a pretty good show, and from what I saw, they have Gilligan. His antics kind of annoy Jesus, and he kind of messes up. He
Mm-hmm.
forgets where he left the loaves and fishes.
Well,
Luckily,
it's Gilligan.
Well, yeah. Luckily, Jesus improvises, and not before he takes off his sandal and hits Gilligan over the head. But right. So it's called the reimagining of Gilligan as an apostle. It's at the South Bend Dinner Theater, and so that's our third for the third caller. Hmm.
So we've got our third caller on the line, and let's go to it now. Hello, what is your name?
Hi, my name is Rachel, and I wanted to tell you that you're evil, horrible people. You're awful people. You represent horrible ideas. God hates you, and He wants to kill your children. You should all burn in hell. Bye.
Okay.
Hmm. Wow. She didn't sound nice.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
We do take listener feedback very seriously. I'll leave it at that.
We do.
Okay, Cardinals were off on Thursday, as I said before. We're heading to a series at home against the Brewers. Game number one goes to the Brew Crew, 2-1. Each team only 5 hits. Kyle Gibson actually threw a pretty decent game. Cards tied it up in the bottom of the ninth when Brendan Donovan walks with the bases loaded. One thing I've noticed this season, Dave, the Cardinals' offense, even given their struggles, they are very productive when they combine a catcher's interference, a hit by pitch, and a couple walks in the same inning. They're putting runs on the board when you do that.
So they take advantage of
They will take
the other
advantage.
team.
Goldie had a chance to win it, but he was unable to come through. Wilson Contreras, oddly enough, he must have been watching that Cub game when Horner scored from second on a wild pitch. Wilson Contreras actually tried to do the same thing in game one against the Brewers with slightly different results. He was out by about 30 feet, trying to score from second on a wild pitch. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Goldschmidt 0 for 5. Nolan Gorman 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts. These guys left just a boatload of runners on base and in scoring position. Gibson, like I said, 6 innings pitched, only 3 hits, 1 run. Nice job by him. This is a guy whose ERA still is over 5. He actually threw a pretty nice game there. Then Saturday's game 2 against the Brewers. Cardinals really get it handed to them with a final of 12-5. Good news is the Cardinals scored more than 3 runs for the first time in quite a while. Bad news, of course, is they gave up 12. Center fielder Mike Ciani saved Michaelis from a grand slam in the top of the second. He went and picked one off the top of the wall. Cards were actually up 4-2 in the top of the fourth of this game. Michaelis kind of shits the bed, ends up giving up 3 homers. His ERA now 6.49 as he exits this game. He only lasted 4 2/3. Thompson, Gallegos, Palante all came in and combined to give up 7 more runs. Not a good effort by the Cards. Game 3, I'm currently watching on the TV now. I did see at the beginning Lars Nootbaar had a bid for a 3-run homer, trying to put the Cards on top early in the bottom of the first. And Brewers center fielder Perkins went over the center field fence and pulled that one back in. Cardinals had the bases loaded with 1 out after that. Still in the first, Goldie pops out and Burleson grounds out. No runs scored. Similar in the second inning. Cardinals with all kinds of opportunities, unable to put anything on the board. I'm looking up right now, and I see they are in the top of the eighth. Cards are down 2-0. The offense, once again, just not there.
I think they finally got to Sonny Gray, who was killing them earlier.
Yeah, I think you said he had 10 strikeouts.
I think he had 10 strikeouts through about 5 innings, but
Yeah.
they finally got to him. But
Well, Sonny Gray's the real deal. He's already proven that. 3 starts, and he's been highly effective. They've brought his pitch count up now. They said no limit going into this game, so he's in full stride at 100%, and he is producing for the Cardinals as they expected. The Cubs didn't get a day off on Thursday, or it was not scheduled off. However, they did end up getting a day off because it was a rainout, right?
it was rain out, and it wasn't like a lot of rain. But it was one of those things where I think the team just decided, like, okay, we're just back from this long trip. We don't have very good prospects right now. We got to bring some guys up. What they did was they realized that their pitching has been stretched out so badly.
Yeah.
Wisniewski, who they brought up and pitched very well for the Cubs in relief, they had to send him back down because he went 4.1 innings or something. They sent Luke Little down. They brought up a couple of guys from the minor leagues. Cordy Brewer, I'm not really sure. I guess he's been around the league for a little bit, not terribly successful, but they brought him up. So they just brought up a lot of reinforcements, and I think they just said, something. If it's raining a little bit, we're going to call this game. And they called it early.
Yeah, probably a good move because they had no time coming in from Arizona on Wednesday night and having that game scheduled on Thursday. That was a pretty tough draw. But anyway, they get the rain out. They do get the rest. They're 11-7 going into what would have been game 2 on Friday. They win that game 8-3. Pretty impressive performance by the Cubs. They're in second place at this point. They were up 7-0 after only 3 innings. Looked like a good day for Swanson and Amaya.
Yeah,
They're-
Maya and Swanson. It's funny how the Cubs' offense has been going there. Some guys started out slowly. Swanson, Horner started off
Mhm.
slowly. Bellinger started out hot. He starts getting cold. I tell you, who's really cold is Christian Morel. He's improved at third base defensively, but he's only got maybe 7 hits in his last 50 some at bats and 1 home run. And he, at one point, I think he was like 1 for 31. But Horner's hitting again. So now you got people who are stepping up, and some guys aren't hitting, and others are stepping up. So then the Cubs come back and they blow the game. Game 1, they had a 2-1 lead, and Alzolay gives up a home run, a 2-run homer in the ninth inning with 1 out.
Yeah, this was the first game on Saturday because they ended up having to play a doubleheader to make up that Thursday rainout. Now they had a chance to win this game still, or at least tie it. Yeah, like you said, Alzolay and didn't get the job done. Gave up the home run to De La Cruz there late. Now they did have a chance to come back and tie this. I was looking at this gentleman who looks to be a rookie, Canario.
Oh, yes.
Canario uh, First of all, what I saw early in this game, he had kind of a circus catch that was one of the most unbelievable snow cones I've ever seen an outfielder hang on to out in left field. And he was able to make the play. But if you do get a chance to go back and see this on a highlight reel, it's pretty entertaining. Tell me about this guy Canario.
Canario's a good young outfielder.
A lot of power in the minors, I saw.
A lot of power. He's got a good potential. They brought him up at the end of last year, and for some reason, when they brought him up, David Ross just didn't play him at all, which is very strange.
Yeah.
That he brought him up and they just didn't play him.
Yeah, I was looking at his stats. It looked like he basically had a cup of coffee at the end of the season last year. Now, what I also noted, besides that snow cone catch that he made in left field, he had a chance to tie this game. He had the runner on third with less than two out, but I'm telling you, this guy was trying to hit a 5-run homer, Davis.
I know. Just got to get the ball in play. That's it.
He took 3 cuts. I mean, he only had one thing on his mind.
Yeah, he's looking for the homer. He's a young guy. I think he's going to be good. I don't know if he's got a future with the Cubs, but the Cubs are pretty much set right now with Happ, Bellinger, and Suzuki and Wright in the outfield, and then they got a couple other, Pete Crow Armstrong and this Kevin Alcantara coming up. I don't know if Canero has, but I think he could end up on another team and have some success.
And he plays center field.
I don't know about center field. I think he's more of a corner outfielder.
Okay, well then the Cubs do make up that rain out on Thursday with the night game last night, second game of the doubleheader. Cubs win this one 5-3. Pretty well played game by the Cubs. Canaro hit a home run. Bush, big RBI hit. Imanaga, once again, very effective in his starting role as the pitcher.
Right, and the fact that he doesn't walk anyone is pretty impressive, I think.
Yeah. Now I noticed Imanaga did finally give up his first runs. Josh Bell took him deep, hit a home run.
Yes, he's going to give up home runs. He's not going to walk too many people. He's going to put the ball in there.
Yeah, and well, I'll tell you, and they missed this on the replay, but while that home run ball was in the air, very timely decision by Jan Gomes to run out to the mound and prevent Imanaga from stabbing himself with a sword which he had buried in the dirt behind the mound.
Right, that his interpreter, I believe, brought out, put it like behind the mound when nobody was looking.
Major League Baseball needs to start screening these interpreters a little bit closer, I think.
I think so.
Well, let's look at some team stats, Davis. I wanted to, as we near close here for this, looking at some team stats here. Let's start off with offense and ops. That's on base plus slugging. Cubs are seventh in the league, Davis, at 735. They're tied there with the Diamondbacks and the Guardians, but hey, top 10 in ops, and that is a critical category to be leading in. The Cardinals, however, 26th, they just aren't getting it done. Um, Home runs. There's the Cardinals, 29th with 13 home runs, just ahead of those pesky White Sox who have 11.
11 home runs.
11 home runs in 20 games, more than 20 games. Yeah. 13's not much better. And where are the Cubbies? The Cubbies are 10th, tied with the Diamondbacks and the Reds. So top 10 in ops, top 10 in home runs. That makes for a potent offensive attack. In runs scored, Cubs 5th. Very impressive. Cardinals 25th in runs. Yep. Only the Mariners, Twins, Athletics, and White Sox trail. So that means Cardinals are last in the National League in home runs and runs scored. Not impressive. And having said all that, I think the Cardinals really are fortunate to have the record that they do have. They could be in a lot worse shape. The talk going into the season was that the Cardinals should have a top 10 offense, and they will need to have that top 10 offense because the expectation was that their pitching would be bottom half, probably at best, somewhere mid pack, maybe 15 to 20 in the league, but that the offense could carry them if they had a strong defense. Now, when we look at team pitching, we find the Cardinals are 10th. So I think they're getting better pitching than they expected, probably better than they're going to get here forward. I expect that to fall off to that mid pack level. And if the offense doesn't pick it up as that pitching kind of comes down to earth a little bit, this could be another ugly season for your beloved Cardinals, Davis.
Oh yes, and I think the Cubs
Cubs are
they're
16th in pitching. So they're in that mid pack. That's where the Cardinals expected to be.
they're gonna need this offense, and they have a pretty potent lineup up and down, but they're gonna need it because this pitching. By the way, as we speak, Tommy, 4 innings today for Kyle Hendricks, an improvement. His ERA was 12 going in. He only gave up 4 earned runs today in 4 innings, so that's an ERA for today of 9. So that's going to drop him down to the low 12s, maybe high 11s.
So you're saying he's on the mend.
He's making a comeback. 4 runs, a bunch of hits. No, but the pitching is going to have to rely on a lot of youngsters unless they make some deal, package Canario and a couple other people or a veteran or something, but and go young. But it's going to have to rely on Wicks and Assad and Wisniewski and Ben Brown and a lot of these youngsters on there. And then you have Imanaga, and then I never know how to say his name, Tallison. He's coming back. He pitched a good game the other day in his return. So,
Yes, he did. Yeah. Yep, I saw that.
and then you just got to hope for Hendricks to somehow see the light again. I don't know.
And did the Cubs win today?
They were losing 6-3 last I saw. Let me take a look at the score here. Hendricks put him in a bit of a hole again, and I don't know if it is a final 6-3. They did make it 4-3, but Hendricks now is 0-3 with an ERA of 12.0.
Ouch. Yeah. Another abysmal offensive performance for the Cardinals today. They lose 2-0 to the Brewers. They came up with 6 hits, only one extra base hit, a double by Mason Wynn. Yeah, this team just not getting it done at the plate. Contreras 1 hit, Nootbaar a hit, Arenado 0 for 2. Goldschmidt got a hit somewhere along the line. He didn't get it when they had the bases loaded and they needed it. Goldschmidt batting 179 with a 507 ops at this point, 1 home run. He has not had an extra base hit since his second at bat of the season. Hard to believe.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, but you just gotta, hope that he comes back up to his lifetime statistics or somewhere close, and I think it
Somewhere close.
probably will.
Arenado, as I mentioned earlier, showing signs of life. His average is up to 291. His ops is now 732. Not too bad. Certainly not what you want out of a $30 million a year player, but has picked himself off the mat. The power still isn't there, though. The extra base hits, the home runs, they're just not present for Arenado, Goldschmidt, or most of the rest of the lineup. I don't think they hit a home run all week, but
That's
I
not
don't
good.
think they had a home run in Oakland or at home in St. Louis in these 3 games against the Brewers. So once again, Cardinals swept by the Brewers at home.
And the Brewers beating the Cardinals today, the Cubs losing. They're back to 2 out as we speak. The Reds have bounced back. They started losing, but they've won their last 3.
Yeah, and here's your Pirates on a 6-game losing streak. They're plummeting back to earth quickly.
They're going back to earth. I thought they'd have it a little bit better, but they might be a year away. Cincinnati, I don't know. I think they'll be up there.
Milwaukee, 14-6, playing 700 ball, Davis. They mean business.
They do. I think they like that new manager who was the bench coach for Craig Counsell, and
Hmm.
I think Counsell would have liked to have him come back over when he left the Brewers. But I think what happened was he said, "No, I got a chance to be the manager here," and the team
Heck
liked him,
yeah.
and they said, "You're not going anywhere. We're going to name you the manager." So far, a good move. Plus, they have a plus 35 run differential over in their games, runs scored against runs
Yeah.
against.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're scoring and they're not giving up a ton of runs. So
Uh-huh. Cubs plus 18. That's solid. They're 13-9, as you said, second place, 2 games behind. Cincinnati in third, 2.5 out. Pittsburgh They're 11-11 and 2-8 in their last 10. But there's the Cardinals at the bottom, 9-13. Their run differential -19. They're on a 4-game skid, and I think they may be nearing the edge of the cliff here. Sonny Gray loses today. He is their stopper. He pitched admirably, and the offense did nothing to support him. Now we're going to go through the 2, 3, 4, 5 pitchers in that rotation, and they're going to have a lot less chance to win than they did today.
Well, and then I'm looking at when I was looking at that run differential. I was just kind of curious about the White Sox. They lost again today.
The White
They're
Sox.
3-18.
Gosh.
Now they have a new announcer there, Jason Benedetti. He went to down their TV. Went to Detroit. He couldn't take it anymore.
Couldn't take it. But Stoney is still there.
Stoney's still there as a commentator, but the new guy has a little catchphrase when they win a game. Stand up, he says. He's a young guy, and he's trying to get everybody there. It's extremely annoying, and luckily we've only had to hear it 3 times this year. But they have scored. Now, the least amount of, before the White Sox, the least amount of runs scored was Oakland, 63 runs. The White Sox have scored 45. Their run differential is -71. I just feel badly for the White Sox. They have all these good young players, and they all get hurt all the time. They're just tearing it apart. I don't know.
Do you think that they potentially are losing games on purpose because they don't want to hear that catchphrase said over the loudspeaker?
Most people are just sitting down.
They've had several beers. They don't want to stand up.
No.
I don't blame them.
Well, Tommy, it's we have to go into the next week with all the hope in the world, because that's all you have as a fan. We're not really analysts or anything like that. We're fans.
Cardinals are going to be home against the D-Bags, and the Cubs are off tomorrow, right? And then they are going to play the Astros. Speaking of teams struggling, Astros haven't looked very impressive.
No, the Astros have been playing very poorly. I don't know what's going on there. I haven't really followed them other than the fact that I was surprised at their record. But you hate to see a good team come in playing poorly, and then you're thinking, okay, is this when they're going to start making their move? Maybe that's just Cub fan thinking. That's just Cub fan thinking, I suppose.
Later in the week, the Cardinals are going to be in New York to take on those pesky Mets. They picked themselves up off the mat. Cubs heading out to Boston.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Cubs in Fenway Park.
Yep. That'd be good. And we'll look forward to that. And we'll be back with coverage of both of those series for each team.
We certainly will be.
Next week on Baseball Hell, we want to thank our audience for joining us. Say goodnight, Davis.
Good night, Davis.